OK. So we've made a new map. Now we can see it has it here. You can also do to do that. We clicked on this main starting item here, folder, I guess it is, directory, whatever, for our project, and I put the map right down here. If we had done it from here, I'll just show you, for example, new map. I'll just hit OK. Then it makes it as kind of a child map of that one, and you can see this little plus and minus icon. You can click here to hide ones that are underneath it. And so I like to do it this way when it's maybe related to the one that's in front of it. So, say this was like an entrance to a dungeon or something, this map 001, and so maybe the next screen in the dungeon would be this one, and then so on and so forth, and then all the maps related to the dungeon you would just keep adding subsequently, or however you want to do it. But it depends on which one you have selected as to what one it will put it under. So see, since we had number 3 selected that time, map number 4 went under here. So then it's controlled by that. If we wanted to make another one under map 1, we just go back to map 1 and do new, and then it has the second one underneath. So it's all just how you want to arrange it and everything, what makes sense to you. I've seen all kinds of stuff that people do for this, but that's just the way that I like to do it. Like if it's a related map, I'll probably nest it inside of it like that, just so I remember, oh, this is the map. These are all the maps that are, have to do with the cave area, and oh, these are all the maps that have to do with this town or whatever. But you could just as easily make them all just like this, where they're, all underneath this and one at a time, and just have them be named stuff that you can remember easily, however you want to do it. So, but yeah, so let's just go ahead and make another second map. So you can see here's all these transparency tiles. This is what I was talking about before. And they have the same grid as they do over here, so you can know that they're transparent. So let's just go ahead and kind of match up to what we did over here. We've got 2 squares, and you can see this information down here at the bottom. It says you're at map 001. It says 17 by 13 grid. So 13 down, and it's talking about these squares. So 17 squares here by 13 squares. So 100% is the zoom. And then we can see this number here that says 16.7. So that's the coordinates that we're currently selecting here. So if I click over here, it's now 11.7. So it's telling me that we're on, the 11th one over and the 7th one down. So that's useful for remembering, what to do. Like if you're trying to match something up and line it up with the map you just made, which is what we're going to do. It'll be useful here. So 16.7 and 16.8. So the main important things here to remember are 7 and 8 for the rows down. So that we can line up the little pathway tiles here. And then you can see here too, as I move my mouse cursor around here, those numbers down in the bottom right change. So to tell you, okay, you're on, number 1 and number 4. So the actual first spot is 0, 0. So the first row is 0 and the first column is 0. So that's one thing that can trip you up. So you might have to, you might just have to get used to that. So even though it's called 0, it's the first one. So 7 and 8 were where we had those before. So I've got the pencil icon. I'm just going to click these in here. And now these 2 spots are going to match up directly with these 2 spots to where, in between the maps. So, and that was what I wanted. So that way I knew, okay, because we're going to make this a connecting thing here pretty quick. We'll talk about switches and events and things like that. So we'll just pencil in some weird pathway here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't even have to be filled in all the way. And maybe we'll grab our fill tool and click on this grass tile. And I'm just going to quickly click this and fill in all the grass. And click over here as well. Now see, it didn't fill in this middle area because it was surrounded by other tiles. So, but that's okay. So we can actually go in here, and maybe I'll just do some more grass. We could do it manually if we want, or we could grab the bucket tool again. Actually, let's do that. Let's grab the flood fill tool and click inside if we wanted to fill the middle really quick. So there's our second path. Now the main thing that we wanted to look at was the events tab. So we want to make it so the player can go from this screen, or this map, over to this one. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to need to make our first event. So make sure you go up here to the event view, and again, you can see that by the squares grid appearing more prominently on screen. And so we're going to actually make an event here. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click. And now if you're using MV, and I think VX Ace has it too, I can't quite remember, but any of the newer versions of RPG Maker, you'll go down here and you'll see this thing that says Quick Event Creation. And then it has 4 options. So these are handy ways to make very common things that you're going to have to make frequently, especially transfer and door. You're going to make those a lot because you'll need a transfer event between every single screen in your game, basically. So what they did in the newer versions is they made it by default, like, okay, you can make the event really quickly, versus in the older ones you had to do them by hand. So I'll show you both ways actually. So we'll go ahead and go to Quick Event Creation and click Transfer. And now on this transfer box it says Location. So it's showing our current location, and that's not really what we want. It's showing the one we have selected. So here what we want to do, see if it gives us a tooltip. The setting for where the character should be moved. Okay, so yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to say, where do we want this character to point? Or, what map do we want him to go? And it doesn't even have to be on a different map. You can have transfer events to transfer them to somewhere else on the same map if you want. But in this case, we're going to make it so we can move to map 2. So we'll click here. And then it says in the location box, we get to pick what map we want. And then whatever point we have this little square at is where it'll transfer us. So we'll go ahead and click map 2. And what we want to do is leave a space. So we could click there, but the problem with that is, it wouldn't really work, right? So I'll just show you. Let's say we click there by accident. Or, we don't even know any better because we're just starting, so we'll click OK. Now the direction, the options are the direction of the character after moving. So the directions are retain. Retain means whatever direction the player was facing when they encountered that event, they will still be facing that direction after they've been transferred. So you can usually use that in most cases, but you can also specify particularly if you want greater control of it. I'm just going to go ahead and use retain because since we blocked off the character from being able to walk here and here, pretty much the only direction they're going to be able to access this square and this square from is the left side moving right, and so it will still be in the same direction that we would want them to face anyway. So we'll just hit OK. And now we can see we have this gray square here which tells us that we've got an event. And we can see down here that it's 001 and it's event 001 because that's our first event that we've made. So what this event should do is transport us right here with the player facing the same direction that they were before, and that'll be to the right. So let's actually go ahead and save because we haven't done that yet. So we want to save our project, and then we want to go up here to the right and we're going to do playtest. Starts the playtest of the current game. So let's go ahead and click that. And now we have our splash screen. And now we have the title screen, and it plays a song and things, and these are all things we can change later. So let's just go ahead and click New Game. And now, the start of a new game, here we are at the starting point. Now, you'll see all these other characters here. By default, it gives you a starting party and everything. And they're in your party by default, and then they'll follow you around. I'm just clicking on the screen here. You can just play the RPG Maker MV games completely with the mouse if you want, so that's pretty nice. And here we can walk around on our map, and we can see that there's certain areas that we can and can't walk, like we can't walk into this tree, but we can walk behind the tree. Now see, this is preventing us from getting there, like I was talking about before. And these are all set up by default by RPG Maker, so you don't have to necessarily go in and figure out, oh, well, you need to be able to make it so they can walk here, but not here. But you do have that level of control if you wish to go back inside and do that. But for the most part, you can use the default stuff, and you'll probably be fine for most things. And then, again, here's this rock, so we can't approach it. Now, right now, because we didn't put an event here, that doesn't do anything, but we did put one here, so let's try walking up to it. And now we've moved over into our other map. But now, how do we get back? Oh, we didn't do that yet. We have to make it so we can go back. So now we're stuck. So this sort of thing happens quite a bit when you're testing, but that's okay. So we can either just hit the X button up here to close out of the testing, or we can right click, and this brings up the in-game menu. And you can see all the party members and their classes and their stats and all that stuff. But we can also go down here to game end, go back to title. Now, there's no, unfortunately, there's no option here to like close the game or quit the game, and I forgot about that as I was just doing this, but there is a plugin that will add that option for you, but it doesn't exist by default, and I don't know why. It's kind of a weird oversight, I guess, by the RPG Maker crew that put this together. But anyway, so you can still just hit the X button, so we'll close that.